So the area we try to improve is more on the two main area. One is on the endpoint, since we have quite a lot of work from home people. Sure. So we try to enhance our endpoint security. So the endpoint security is not just the traditional antivirus. And recently we contact the cybersecurity insurance company, and one of the criteria for them to provide a quote for us is we need to have an ETR within our environment. If we don't install ETR, they don't even want to provide a quote.
Wow.
And but we don't have ETR, so that's the area we need to enhance, improve our endpoint security. And another main area is, since we move almost everything, I mean, not really everything, a lot of area like email, SharePoint, file sharing, everything to Microsoft 365. So we also try to enhance that area because, I mean, Microsoft, they are quite standard, but a lot of those phishing email, they just pass through the Microsoft mails gateway, and then our user, they just every day just getting a lot of phishing mails right now.
That's fantastic, and two really important things for me to work on. So if you don't mind, Alvin, I'm going to stick right there. Let's start with the most recent comment you made. Microsoft Office 365. Microsoft is not a pure play security company. They are spending a lot of money in R&D and a lot of money through acquisition to try to get better, but they are not best of breed in security, although they are improving. So the first comment you make was about the email aspect of it. I'd be curious, most of the people I speak to do choose to layer on another aspect of email security. And I am wondering if that's something that you have done. And if so, could you maybe talk to us about who you chose to use to help secure the Microsoft 365 email layer?
So we just migrated to Office 365 about half years ago, and not so long ago. So before we migrated, we have on-prem Exchange server, and at that time we use Barracuda as our the first line. Yeah, the spam firewall to protect our environment. So when we migrate to Office 365, we did not renew, the subscription, but we thought Microsoft could do a better job for us, but we just realized based on our last 6 months experience, and then we realized it's just not the case. So right now we are looking for the new, the front end, like the mail gateway to protect our Microsoft 365.
Okay, great. Well, then let's look at the data real quickly to maybe help you do that. So here's Barracuda Networks, and they are becoming quite legacy. We're seeing the citations drop, and we're seeing the overall spending intentions now really into negative territory. Inversely, we're seeing names like Mimecast actually still being a little bit stable, and the biggest one that we've seen right now is Proofpoint actually starting to really grow in this area. So these are the ones that we're starting to see for that extra layer of email security. There are, of course, other names, but those are the ones that we're seeing right now, just so you're aware of, sir. A lot of your peers are pointing towards.
Okay. Then that's good information for me. Yes.
And then the other thing you mentioned, which was incredibly interesting, was that the company wouldn't really even talk about working with you until you adopted an EDR, or next-gen EDR, even being called XDR by some catchy research shops. What we're seeing right now, the biggest player in the next gen of endpoint detection and response is clearly CrowdStrike. They debuted incredibly strong right before their IPO, and it's still at very elevated levels. Your peers are showing a lot of spending velocity with this name. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to look at some of the vendors in the space. SentinelOne is another one, I believe, just IPO'd, extremely strong as well in this space. But curious if you've had the chance to take a look at them. Tanium's another one that's out there. VMware bought Carbon Black, which is another option in the space if you're already a VMware customer. But I'm just curious I'd be curious if you had a chance to evaluate any of these and what you're thinking about.
Yes, we did. Actually, we checked into the CrowdStrike early this year. No, actually later last year. And the reason at the time because we have our antivirus license subscription was expired in March this year. And at that time, we tried to find a new antivirus process endpoint security software. And we spent some time with CrowdStrike, but their price was quite high at the time. And then we ended up, we just say, okay, we will continue to evaluate that one, probably end of this year. And then we have more like a global, the total license to negotiate with them.
I do appreciate the cost sensitivity, and I'm going to just point out that, you know, over the years I've learned that industrials manufacturing is a little bit more cost conscious, and it's largely
we are more conservative.
Yeah, of course, you're conservative, a little bit more cost conscious, and it's also because the margins in manufacturing itself are not as great as some other areas. So you do have to have some concern over that. So when I cut this now to industrial manufacturing, your peers, we were seeing a little bit of Symantec as an old antivirus. We're seeing a little bit of Trend Micro actually rebound here. I know that's a name that a lot of people in the industry used to rely on.
Yes, we do. We actually still use Trend Micro.
Sure, right.
In outside of Japan, and we use Symantec in Japan.
Okay.
The reason we use them is they are cheap, very cheap.
Exactly, and they're not bad. They might not be CrowdStrike, but they are not bad. And we are seeing right here a nice rebound in Trend Micro. Unfortunately, not so much with Symantec. Once Broadcom, when Broadcom buys technology, it tends to not improve. Right, it's a signal that there's not going to be much R&D investment once that happens, unfortunately. And then also in your space, so you'll see CrowdStrike here. It is doing well, but it is decreasing, and that might simply be due to cost consciousness.
Yes, yeah.
And Microsoft, of course, is still very strong because of the fact that you're already paying for a 365 license. You know, obviously, you're already paying them. You want to utilize them as much as possible.
Yeah.
One other name here I'd love to talk about, sir, and it was overall one of the best performers in all of ETR's survey universe in this last survey period, is Zscaler. Even in a cost-conscious world of an industrial manufacturing, you can see here that it's almost doubled in overall net score, which is basically our measure of the spending velocity on a vendor. It is absolutely just, you know, meteoric rise. People have been waiting for a while for this to cool down, and it just doesn't seem like it's going to cool down. I am curious, sir, if you guys have adopted any of Zscaler, your thoughts so far.
We actually use Zscaler in Japan, so we probably have around 1,600 seats, the subscription with them, and we use Zscaler as more like an endpoint security to work together with Microsoft 365. One of the main reasons we use Zscaler because we used to have expensive web like a filtering, install and also proxy server in Japan, and they were expensive and slow, and then that's why we replaced them with Zscaler.
And so far, is it working for you, sir?
Yes, yeah. In Japan, and we try to expand it, to like other countries, but we encounter problem in China because Zscaler is a cloud-based, and we cannot use their Zscaler cloud in China.
It's very interesting you bring that up. I had one of your colleagues that also ran a global enterprise, and he said the problem with Zscaler was as you went to different regions, the different sovereign governments and the rules about their cloud access made it difficult to deploy one unified Zscaler solution because it has to actually work with that, that region's cloud. You're saying you had the same problem in China?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have any purview of your company here in the US or North America operations as well?
We don't use it right now, but
you do not. Okay.
Yeah, but we might. We might try to standardize everything. By using one solution. Yeah, but we implement Zscaler last year, so we might expand that one.
And so far, pricing's been okay. I know you are cost conscious, and I know Zscaler was a little bit aggressive in their pricing increases.
Yes,
And
the price was not so bad.
okay, that's wonderful to hear. All right, I do appreciate it. While I'm on this slide and I have you talking about security, I just want to check in. Cisco, been around for a very long time. They've been a great partner to a lot of large enterprises, especially those that have long histories. Do you still view them as a good partner in security? Are they still relevant to you in the security world?
We kind of phasing out the Cisco equipment.
Sure.
And I mean, even though we use, for example, Meraki is part of Cisco,
Yep,
but I
on the
will
networking
consider
side.
Meraki is a different, I mean, product line is much easier to use and much easier to negotiate the price. And so we replace the Cisco equipment with part of Meraki, and also like FortiGate. We also use a FortiGate. I mean,
Sure.
in a lot of sites right now.
Yeah, Fortinet. I had one of your peers call it Forta everything. That they do a little bit of everything, and a lot of companies that Cisco might be a little bit too big for, or maybe aren't advancing enough. I've heard a lot of people move over to Fortinet as a platform play. They're a little bit better for cost conscious than a Palo Alto Networks or a Cisco.
We talked to Palo Alto Network a few years ago. They were too expensive.
Yeah, and listen, the people at Palo Alto are extremely intelligent. They are always pushing new developments, but when you can't afford them, I've heard a lot of your peers say that Fortinet is a great alternative for a better price.